We have a pretty good workshop so far? All right. I'm Kevin McLogan of Donegan McLogan Consultants. You probably saw me at the registration desk. And right now I want to introduce Dr. Leo Hanifin. He's a professor of mechanical engineering right here at the University of Detroit Mercy. He's the leader of research in transit.
I'm going to talk about one of those projects that he mentioned. The other projects, by the way, are in a little short flyer that's part of your materials if you're interested in what our team is up to besides this. And this project started about 11 months ago to look at the factors that inhibit and enable effective regional transit in southeastern Michigan. But one of the first things we wanted to do was look at other areas, so we picked 4 pure regions. Atlanta, Cleveland, and St. Louis have a lot of similarities to us. Some weakness in the downtown, some city-suburb issues, some economic issues, some racial issues. So we wanted to look where there were similar challenges, but these cities have all moved ahead to one degree or another in developing transit more than we have. So we wanted to see how they overcame those challenges. And then we picked Denver. They're kind of the poster children for driving hard ahead and being successful at it. So we wanted to see what they were doing too. And we looked at all these different areas: public opinion and media, leadership, politics, funding, governance, TOD, legal, and equity and access. And I'm not going to report on all of them. I'm sure you're grateful that I will not today. But I'm just going to talk about 2. Leadership in politics, because that's really at the heart of where we are today. We have to understand what it takes to be leaders, all of us in transit, and what are the political barriers that are going to keep us from moving ahead at the rate we'd like. A subtitle for this is Santa Claus roller coasters and free body diagrams. So you'll all be pleased to know we're going to talk about things that are the favorites for most everyone in the world. Christmas, amusement parks, and physics. So, what's our first lesson? I'm going to talk about 7 different lessons. And the first one is regional means regional. I think we've got to always keep that in front of us if we're going to move ahead. We need to serve all the people of the region, and that came out really strong this morning. A lot of people saying you've got to give something to everyone and you've got to serve everyone. You've got to get them where they want to go anywhere in the region, especially to jobs, but also to healthcare, to education, and to their entertainment. And you need to have some sort of preferential treatment for those who are transit dependent. So that's part of region. So let's look at how they're doing about being regional in a couple of these regions. The first is St. Louis. You can see the service district from the St. Louis metro system, which includes the St. Louis County, St. Louis City, and St. Clair County in Illinois, which is why it started as bi-state. But they don't serve St. Charles County and Jefferson County. They've been opt-out counties. And so what's going on in St. Charles and Jefferson County? Well, if you look at where the population is projected to move and where it's moving, there's a lot of blue dots in St. Charles and Jefferson County. Especially in Jefferson in the inner part and throughout the whole expressway corridors there in St. Charles, but they're not in. So the people moving there won't have metro service, at least as it is now. And then let's look at where the jobs are. Employment gains in the last 6 years in all the biggest concentrations, the dots are in St. Charles and Jefferson County. So basically, if Metro is going to serve getting people from where they live to where they work, it's a darn shame that Jefferson and St. Charles counties are out. Let's look at Atlanta. Here's the MARTA service area inside the yellow line. I'm never going to make it as a graphic artist, but, and that's Fulton County and DeKalb, Other counties were invited in the beginning, like Cobb and Gwinnett, big counties with a lot of activity centers and population, but they're not in. So similarly, you don't get the MARTA service. So what's it look like in downtown Atlanta at 5 o'clock at night? Well, the blue bus on the left is a Cobb County Transit bus. The one in the middle is the Gwinnett County Transit bus. The one on the right is the Georgia Regional Transit Authority Express Bus. And if you turn to the right, unfortunately my camera was not wide angle enough, you would see about a block away the MARTA train station and bus station. Hey, it's getting people where they need to go, but it's not a unified, integrated system. There's got to be inefficiencies of running these various organizations with all the people in them. So it's too bad, and we've got to really be careful here as we move forward. You heard Paul Hilligans today say that there was legislation that is being considered in Lansing to allow opt-out. In my mind, we've got to fight that. We've got to fight that real hard because we want to be a region. The second lesson is that transit leadership and progress requires tenacity. And again, this is very consistent with what you've heard so far today. Transit leadership is not a sprint. If you're in it for the short term, don't bother. It's a marathon ride on a roller coaster, and those setbacks are going to happen. I can guarantee it. I've seen it everywhere we've gone, and I'm sure that the experts from around the country would attest to it as well. But the effective leader learns from that, retunes, refocuses, re-energizes, and moves ahead, and either takes smaller steps or reloads for a big step. There's one leader that demonstrated that very nicely was Cal Marcella. Within days of the defeat of a big referendum, Guide the Ride, he had his staff at an off-site planning for the fast tracks initiatives. So it wasn't, oh geez, throw your hands up, we're not going to be able to get any bigger or any better. We've just got to turn it around and start over again. And it takes that kind of tenacity and perseverance. Well, why do these defeats happen? And this is consistent with what you've already heard. You know, it happens because you need consensus and collaboration across the system to develop balanced, equitable systems that serve the array of priorities. And those aren't all the same. People think differently. We are not clones of one another across the county, across our ethnicities, across our organizations, across our views on developmental models and sustainability and environmental issues. So when we think differently, we're going to come in and throw something on the table. And it's up to us as we go forward to not rail at one another when someone says something that you disagree with. We've got to be better listeners. I don't think our community of regional Detroit has been particularly good at listening to one another and coming to consensus, but I think we can be a lot better. There's some good signs. The DIA, Cobo Hall, the zoo, you know, the RTA, you know, being formed, are all great signs that we're starting to think regionally. So let's just keep at it and keep listening to one another and try to find a way to reach that consensus. And that's the third lesson. Whoever is leading transit systems have to be politically astute consensus builders. And again, Cal Marcella demonstrated some great wisdom in moving ahead with fast tracks. For one thing, the RTD could have come forward with a referendum by dictate. They could have just said, we're going to do a referendum. Or they could go through a petition. They decided to go through a petition, and at first blush that sounds kind of stupid. You know, why do we want to go through that extra step? What's a petition do? It builds the ground game. It builds the people who sign the petition, and now you know who they are. And you can bring them in to the coalition of activists who are trying to advocate for better transit. He also got all 30 of the metro mayors to endorse. I went around with a recorder, and I've got probably at least 200 hours of interviews in these 4 cities with our team of 12 people from 4 different colleges of the university, by the way. And the only time I was asked to turn it off was when they described how they got the 30th mayor to come on board. They also created a C4, not-for-profit, that could do advocacy, and it lived for a short period, long enough to hire a consulting group, CRL. And unfortunately, we were going to have a speaker here from CRL, Maria Garcia Berry, who had a very dear friend pass away just yesterday, and she could have told the story better than I. But they did a great job of testing political messages. And I'm going to show you an example here, if I can get my mouse in the right place, of one of the resulting messages.
In the past, we thought highways were the only answer. Now we know there will never be enough lanes. For just 4 cents on every $10 purchase, Fast Tracks will expand rapid transit throughout the entire metro area and suburbs. It will provide more choices, help preserve our environment, and enhance our economy. It's time to look beyond the highways and see where rapid transit can take us.
Okay, so what do we see there? We saw a very specific plan. You saw where the lines were going to go. You heard how much it was going to cost, 4 cents on every $10. You saw real people. You heard about the real issues that moved those people as tested by CRL. So they then added another ad.
If you vote yes on 4A in the Fast Tracks plan, it could change the way you spend your time. It could change how you get to the airport, catch a game, and enjoy a night on the town. Fast Tracks will expand rapid transit throughout the entire metro area and suburbs. So why stay stuck in the past when you can move smoothly into the future? Fast Tracks. The time is now.
Okay, what do we see there? Again, reaching out to the non-transit rider, the choice rider. If you're going to go out on a night on the town, you're going to go to the airport, you're going to go to work, you're going to take your kid to a ball game. These are things that transit will do for you. So it broadens the appeal beyond the current transit rider. And if you're going to get the plurality in a vote, you've got to appeal to that wider segment. And it worked. Fast Tracks passed, and they're building 119 miles of combined heavy rail, light rail, and BRT right now. Another thing we heard in Denver over and over again, it was like the mantra. They kind of chanted it together. Don't let perfect be the enemy of possible, or to put it another way, don't let perfect be the enemy of progress. We are not all going to get exactly what we think is the system should be, and what we want from the system. And this is so critical because so many people just want to draw a line in the sand. And a lot of times it's over issues that are not even essential to their own values and objectives. They just, some people just like to fight. And if you're not careful, the next thing you know, they've got some friends and they're raising some money and they're creating an ad and they're out there. And guess what? Today's political environment is polarized. In case, at least, around here it is, and I hear in Washington there's some of that. The media amplifies contention. If you can get somebody to throw a chair at someone else on a television show, then, wow, your ratings are going to go up. Let's get them battling. And the web and media allows access to everyone. So if you can bring people into the tent and start with them together, listening and talking to each other and building consensus, then we can keep that contention to a minimum and allow a better chance of success. You heard this earlier, you heard the ground game, and I had to put a Michigan-Ohio State picture in here, since we are in Michigan and we have people from, and Liz Gerber from University of Michigan is here, so my wife's a grad of Michigan too, so I had to do it for her. So anyway, but the ground game, what's a ground game? Well, in St. Louis, Metro collaborated with a group called Citizens for Modern Transit, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about this later too, but I had to mention that this was a great combination. Metro can't advocate because they're the RTA of St. Louis, but Citizens for Modern Transit can advocate, Metro can educate. So they collaborated and were synergistic in their programs and had the energy together to advance the ground game. This is what their ground game looked like. I've got the spreadsheets that show that there were 12 slices of the community, and they were all invited to participate. And each of these organizations, over 200 organizations or entities, was rated. Are they actively against transit? Are they vocal and out there opposing? Do they need to understand it better? Are they for it, but not vocal, or are they vocal and endorsing? And individuals in these groups were assigned to go and meet with these people and visit their meetings and do everything they could to move them along that continuum to being more supportive. It's a lot of work. It's like a political campaign. And Denny just described a lot of that in LA. Lesson 6, and this is all kind of obvious by now from what you've heard and what I've said, that transit planning is not simple or easy. It does need to be led by transit professionals. It can't if we said in this room that we together are going to design a transit system, we'd be here for the next millennium trying to figure out the legislation, the regulations, the funding options, the technology, the scheduling and route design, all the things that transit professionals know. But having said that, all stakeholders need to be involved and have a voice, and that's part of what we're starting here. The CAC of the RTA will be part of that. I know M1 Rail, Heather Carmona is here. She's in charge of outreach and that communication. So all the movement that we have here are dedicated to that engagement of the stakeholders. So we're in a good position in that regard. But it takes leadership and real collaboration and compromise. So again, let's look at an example. This is how they did it in Atlanta. And this was a long process. Back in the mid-aught years of the new century, the ARC, Atlanta Regional Commission, their version of SEMCOG, and MARTA, the Metro Area Regional Transit Authority, and the Georgia Regional Transit Authority decided they were going to do some planning together, and they co-located. I thought it was a brilliant move. They got their good staff members and transit professionals together, and then they started developing a vision. And that vision was endorsed by the boards of these three organizations. So that was a great first step. That was in 2008, that Concept 3 Regional Transit Vision came out. And then they started pitching it to the legislature, and the legislature came out with the Transportation Improvement Act. Another great step. So now they had the authority to go forward with a referendum to support a combination of roads and transit. Some people would say that combining those is a mistake, but in talking with Shay, who you're going to hear from later, that maybe that's what you need to do in Georgia. So there they were. They had the law. They needed a referendum. So they decided they needed to do some planning in order to define what it was going to be paid for with how much money. So in fact, if you look back here, this whole period is a 4-year period between the Concept 3 and T-SPLOST, which is a Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. Great name. Yeah. So T-SPLOST was coming up for the ballot, and they decided to do some planning. So this is I'm going to share with you the words, if I can get the words of Stacey Abrams. She's the minority chair of the Georgia.
But your problem is that you fundamentally began by saying, come up with all the things you want, and then for 2 years we're going to take those things away from you. So we asked all these communities to.
Whoop. I shouldn't have touched that. I tried to move it out of the way. Let's try again. Okay. Let's let it calm down for a minute. We're all calm. We're gonna come together. I'm gonna be so upset if this thing doesn't. Let me just take it out of this and try to bring it back in and try again. Well, I'm not going to give up. Again, it's going to take a second. I'm going to try to find the actual file. Got lots of files. Oh, darn it, that's not. No, that's a digital, that's just a file that describes what she's saying. I don't have it. Well, let's try it. I'm going to try it one more time from here then. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to relate to you what she said. Basically what she said was this. They went out to the communities and they asked them what they wanted. And it was like bringing people to Santa Claus. You would sit on Santa Claus's knee and ask them and tell Santa what you wanted. And they built this big bag full of requests. And then for the next 2 years, they took things away. Because the bag of requests was $32 billion. T-SPLOST could fund about $8 billion. In the end, what that did was create a lot of regional opposition to regionalism. People started fighting for their own and being angry because your cousin got what you asked for. Your cousin got something and you didn't get anything. So that's her little story, and I'm really sorry that that didn't come on all right. I hope the other. Now, so T-SPLOST goes ahead, and a campaign was developed, and here's some of the ads that were developed. It was run by the Metro Chamber, was the leader of this, and Che took on this leadership. So here's a...
Traffic in Metro Atlanta is tied up in knots, and something must be done to fix it. Less traffic will keep Metro Atlanta's economy strong and improve our quality of life. Here's part of the plan to untie Atlanta. With expanded MARTA service, Atlanta Beltline transit, bridge repairs, better traffic flow, and wider roads.
I don't have time.
Let's untie the knot. Vote yes on the July 31st transportation referendum.
Okay, so what do we see there? And this is some of the criticism I heard of the ads was there's not real people. It's a little vague, improvements to MARTA, things like that. And unlike Denver, where you had specific lines and specific costs, this had some general ways in which your life would be better. There was also an ad that goes like this.
I'm leaving the office now, honey. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Traffic in Metro Atlanta is among the worst in the nation, hurting jobs and our economy, and keeping us away from family and friends.
So where's your mom? Probably tied up in traffic again.
Let's untie the knot and help our economy. Vote yes for the July 31st transportation referendum.
Okay, somebody probably got some creativity awards for that, but when I talked to people around the community, a lot of them felt they were a little vague in terms of what it is you're getting. And actually the second one was called kinky by a few people. So what happened? Well, you started to get some people to come out with opposition. Here's something that was put out by a political party about taxes and trust. And there's no sound on it. It's so you have to read. Actually, there's sound. There's just music. And it's a very simple message by a party you might have heard of. Can anyone name the party yet? It's about too many taxes, too many government jobs. Maybe we won't get what they're promising. You want to tax yourself? No, not really. Or I don't know. I haven't confirmed whether that statement is true, whether it's the largest tax in history. Shay's shaking her head no. And but if you want to go to Chicken Park, I love that. Poultry Park, it's not Chicken Park. Poultry Park. You can be part of a rally. I wish. Now, if you go to Poultry Park, I'm sure that you hear some country music, and now Denny's stuff was kind of psychedelic, you know, with the spinning things. You know, in Atlanta, I don't think the psychedelic would sell, so you get some country music in Atlanta.
Out around the counties, politicians say, double down the spending on railroads and highways. Another penny sales tax will help to smooth the way, but they can't have what we don't give, referendum day. Heads up, Georgia, don't get on the train.
Of course, it's a freight train.
If it leaves the station, it won't come back again. No one can control it, everyone will pay. Vote no, July 31, referendum day. Georgians pay their taxes, city, county, state. Now a dozen regions also want their pay. They'll take in the new tax, the voters lose control. Unelected governments will leave us in the cold. Heads up, Georgia, don't get on the train. If it leaves the station, it won't come back again. No one can control it, everyone will pay. Vote no, July 31, referendum day. Just vote no on
Okay. So what are you getting there? Very clear messages of fear. You're not controlling unelected bureaucrats. You're going to vote for something that can never go away. But some very clear things like, when is referendum day? I think you knew it by the time that was done, it was July 31st. Very, very clear messages to get their vote out. So these are the kinds of messages that we need to be prepared for and head off, because they will come here. In fact, there's books out on the troubadours that move from city to city, energizing the anti-transit residents from the region. So we need to be ready with messages that are out ahead of these messages that you just saw. And I think that ground game is a way to do it. So some of the opposition came out, NAACP, at least some chapters in the area. The Tea Party, the Sierra Club, they actually did some joint press conferences from what I understand. If you came to me with $1 million and put it on a table and said, Leo, you can have this, but first you've got to bring these three groups together and have them do joint press conferences, I'd say, hey, it's not worth my time. I don't think I can do it. You know, but if you allow it to happen by not bringing them in, they may just end up on the other side of the table. So what happened? Well, I think a lot of the people here know that it was defeated at about 2-1. But here's an indication that Atlanta has city-suburb issues too. It looks like a target. The purple on the outside is 10 to 28% for, or 0 to 28% for. The orange is 29 to 41% for, so still failing. The yellow is 42 to 50%, so still failing. So only the blue and purple in the center passed at either half or 2/3 or better. So the results were not good, to say the least. But again, what this says is other cities have faced the same thing. Sometimes, like in Denver and St. Louis, they're successful. In the past, Atlanta's been successful, and I'm sure they're going to turn around. They're going to do something good to get moving again, and because of that tenacity that I talked about. Okay, lesson 7. This is my last lesson. Transit leaders come from everywhere. Every citizen is a potential transit leader, and this is the lesson I want to leave you with. There's people like Maria Saporta, who's been an advocate of transit and a reporter in Atlanta for 25 years. There's educational leaders in Washington that got out the students to help with the ground game, to be the troops on the ground, telling people about transit. Academics like Catherine Ross and Harry West, who used to be transit or regional leaders at Georgia Tech. Here's another transit leader. He happens to be the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic and a heart surgeon. So he was approached by the Cleveland Regional Transit Authority and Joe Calabrese and his gang, and as they were looking at what to do in the city, and this is what he said.
Dr. Toby Cosgrove, heart surgeon and CEO, the Cleveland Clinic.
I cannot stress enough the importance of healthy arteries. The entire system depends on them to function properly. In some cases, a complete reconstruction is necessary to ensure a longer, healthier future. I'm pleased to report that the Euclid corridor is one major artery well on its way to recovery.
Restoring Euclid Avenue, the historic link between downtown Cleveland and University Circle, isn't just wishful thinking. It's happening now. Soon everyone can look forward to riding state-of-the-art bus rapid transits along a landscaped, tree-lined, and redeveloped Euclid Avenue. And just as important, it will provide over 4,000 jobs along the way.
It's great for the heart of the city.
The $200 million Euclid Corridor project is just part of the $2.3 billion in projects starting soon throughout our city. And another reason we can all believe in Cleveland.
Okay, a lot of pride there, a lot of vision, and the thing that Denny was talking about, I think, or one of the speakers, economic vitality. You know, this is going to re-energize and revitalize our city, and that's what happened. The Health Line, the bus rapid transit system on Euclid, has turned a street that looked a lot like our Woodward, at least our Woodward a couple years ago. It's starting to redevelop along Woodward with a lot of great things happening, but it has a lot of the same assets. It has universities along Euclid. It has cultural institutions. It's got hospitals, and those are all beneficiaries of what's happened. But the spaces in between those entities have been redeveloped with this co-branding of the Health Line. The BRT, their slogan was, "It's not a bus, it's not a train, it's the future," to get people to stop thinking about BRT as if it's the old diesel spewing bus. And the Cleveland Clinic even built this beautiful plaza along the route to make their contribution to the redevelopment. So where does that bring us in the end? It brings us back to consensus and a law of physics that prevails. I have to throw some engineering in here for you. We need communication and cooperation, and the region is going to be hindered by different people pulling in different directions, different priorities, paths, and goals. We need to come together. It's simple physics. If we all pull equally in a different direction, we're not going to go anywhere. In fact, Denny inspired me today with his music. I decided that there's a song that really says what we need. This might be our theme song. The Rolling Stones sung it. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might just find you get what you need. All together. So that's where we're at. We have a report for this peer study, which has not only these areas, but the other areas I listed in the beginning. And I'd be glad to send you a copy on a CD. If you give me a business card or send an email to me at this email address, leo.hanifin@udmercy.edu. We also have a report on the history of transit in Detroit, which I didn't talk much about today. And finally, I will give one little advertisement. We want to build the next generation of transit leaders and transit professionals who understand all those technologies. So each summer for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been running transit camp for middle school kids here in Detroit. And these are some of the pictures from last year's transit camp. And we're running it 2 sessions in mid-July and late July. And you have a flyer in your handouts that were passed out, and they're available next to the check-in desk. If you know a youngster and you think transit's important, send them to transit camp. So they will be inspired to study hard and become a transit professional that will move our system ahead in Detroit. Thank you.